going on, trading card game players? Figs here with Figs Forum, bringing you guys another update on my Phantom Knight list. So as the title explains, I am playing Tearlaments in my Phantom Knight list. So I wanted to go ahead and showcase for you guys a cool little combo that I've been pulling off with Tour Guide as well in the list. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I definitely think it's very competitive. Of course, it's definitely my formula on the list. Of course, I don't play any hand traps, more board breakers than anything, because I do enjoy playing into my opponent's boards. But yeah, I definitely am having a lot of fun with the list. I think it's very good, very solid. So I wanted to showcase the list for you guys, as well as the combo that I use to, go into a pretty good end board. There are different ways of being able to get through to that end board. Tour Guide isn't the only way, but I'll be showcasing it with Tour Guide, as it is the easiest, most optimal way. And of course, we're playing 3 of it in the deck, just to obviously be able to have the consistency of pulling it off. But I'll go over the list, give you guys, a little bit of an explanation, of course, on certain cards, the reason for playing certain cards, and then we'll go ahead and, go over the combo as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the list. Let's go and get into it. All right, so before we get into the list, let me go ahead and give a shout out to Illusion TCG. I was able to pick up this 2016 World Championship Qualifier Phantom Knight playmat from Illusion TCG. He gave me a really good deal, hooked me up. Definitely check him out. Links will be in the description. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the list here. As I said, as I always do, we'll go ahead and get started with the Phantom Knight cards, as of course those are the most important cards. So we got ourselves 3 Torn Scale, 3 Boots, 2 Cloak, and then 1 of each of the one-ofs that we usually play. We've got ourselves the 1 Gloves and the 1 Staingreaves. This is obviously still the standard lineup, of course, 3-3, 2-1-1. I don't see ourselves playing it any differently unless we get some kind of different consistency in how we need to play it. Otherwise, I definitely think this is the most optimal. We're able to see as much of the Phantom Knight names as we need to. And as I said, for our combo, you ideally just need 1 Phantom Knight name as well as any other level 3, and you can pull off the same combo without needing Tour Guide. But obviously having access to Tour Guide gives us more options. And then of course, playing the Tearlaments cards gives us an element in the deck that allows us to not strictly just focus on our normal summons. And then of course, since we're not playing Brave, Torn Scales is far more important in terms of being able to start with him, because of course, we can actually utilize his ability on the summon. Then for the traps, we've got ourselves the 1 Shade Brigandine, the 1 Wings, and the 3 Fogblade. Ideally, you could do 2 Fogblade, 1 of the Sword. I don't like the Sword as much. I enjoy having access to 3rd Fogblade, just because you'll notice in the combo, since we are playing Tearlaments, you do have the ability to mill a trap. And then of course, you're always searching a trap. You're also setting a trap off Bardiche. You're also able to grab the trap monster off of Cloak. So we have the ability to really see all of these traps very, very often. So I do like having access to all of them, or all 3 Fog Blades, because ideally, your end board can be double Fog Blade depending on how well you open, as well as some of the cards that we're playing in here allows us to set these up if need be. So I definitely think 3-1-1 is the way to go. But as I said, you could always cut this down to 2 and play 1 of the Sword. So that's it for the Phantom Knight cards. Let's go ahead and get into the Tearlaments cards that we're playing. We're not playing all the Tearlaments, but we're playing the most important ones for our list. We're playing the 3 Havis, the 3 Shiren, and the 2 Merly. So let me go ahead and explain why we're playing it like this. So the 2 Merly is because of Bistio's, of course. Excuse me. The 2 Merleys is because of Bistio's, of course. Bistio's do stop us from being able to utilize Merly, in the event that we're going through our combo and someone has one. We want to have access to the second one. We don't want to have to use Levier to bring back a Merly, although it wouldn't be the least optimal thing. We want to make sure we're using Levier to bring back a level 3 that's going to allow us to combo properly. So we want to have access to 2 Merly. And also in some situations, it might be the better normal summon, especially if we have access to Shiren, or if we have access to other graveyard abilities. Sometimes that might be the option, but we do have access to 3 Shiren. Shiren is a 3 of I felt was really good, just because of the fact that it is a mill 3. It gives us names in the grave and gives us an additional body to play with, as well as the level 4s are important for some of the cards that we're playing in the extra deck. And then Havis is really the MVP. This is actually the most important card in the build, because we're generally only using this Tearlaments build to just shovel out level 3s. The Havness is pretty much what we're looking to really just pump out. Our combo allows us to basically end on getting a Havis on board. Most of the time it starts our combo being able to get it on board. I mean, if our opponent goes first and we see a Havis, we start off with a level 3, which means that, our normal summon is uncontested. We're able to just go into whatever we need to at that point, Cherubini, Breaksword, whatever level 3, necessary at that point. But yeah, you'll see it within the combos that this is probably one of the most important cards, because we're always looking to summon a level 3 just for most of our combo lines. So that's it for the Tearlaments monsters. Let's go ahead and go into the other bits and pieces. As I said, we are playing 3 Tour Guide of the Underworld. as well as 1 Graph and 1 Sir. You know, this is very important. Like I said, this is the 1 card combo. If you see this and it's uncontested, you're able to pull off the entire combo. Obviously uncontested, then you are able to, put out a pretty strong end board. The end board consists of you being able to mill 5, you know, putting more cards in grave, and then depending on the resources that you're able to mill, you'll have access to more accessibility to more cards. The Graph and Sir allow us to be able to bring back out Cherubini for our board, and I'll show you in the end, because we do play Sprint, so the Cherubini will be used to be able to make Sprint. But yeah, this is the combo that we're using. I definitely think it's very important that we have access to 3 Tour Guide. I like it better than a Rhino Heart normal summon, so that's why we're not actually playing Rhino Heart at all. This gives us more value than Rhino Heart in this build. And then we're playing the 2 Dangers. This was a flex spot. I was actually flexing out these 2 Dangers as well as 1 Super Poly. I was playing Fenrir originally. I wanted to have an additional card that allows us to have something for a setup on an end board, as well as being able to, you know, break boards, because I do enjoy, again, board breakers. But I feel like the Dangers were a little bit better just because of the fact that it's additional engine that allows us to play the game. So we're not just necessarily focused on, you know, just dealing with our opponent's board, but in the instance that we don't see board breakers, we want to have as much flexibility in extenders, because if we're not playing additional extenders, you do notice that a lot of our deck is consistent of normal summons. So it's really contingent on getting our mills off. And then of course, these allow us to trigger tier names if need be, as well as being able to ditch other cards from our hand to the grave and then get free summons off of these. So these were really good, especially in testing. I do like these better than the Fenrir, but depending on, you know, your local meta and how things play out for you, Fenrir might be better in that regard. So let's go over the spells. That's it for all the monsters. We've got our Called By, Foolish Burial, Rhoda, and Instant Fusion. These are the one-ofs that we're playing in the deck. Most builds don't obviously play Foolish Burial because Tearlaments, Foolish Burial isn't the best. But in here, it's actually really great, just because a lot of times you might get hit with Abyss Shield, you might get hit with Bell. That stops us from being able to utilize some of the abilities. So Foolish Burial allows us, since we are focusing on Leviair in our build quite heavily, he's an Aqua, so being able to Foolish Burial, you know, set up, you know, Leviair, link it away for something, Foolish, a name, for Tearlaments, and then we're able to make our fusion. This also, it lets us get any Phantom Knight name that we're missing as well. So it's generally just an extender. I don't use it to actually play lead. I don't use it to start any combos in the beginning of my turn. This is literally just an extender. If, you know, we're trying to play the game and we're getting hit somewhere, whether Abyss Shields or removing our PKs or whatever, then we want to have access to this to allow us to furnish our plays and kind of continue them off. Obviously, the Rhoda's in there for the PKs, Instant Fusion for our fusions, and Call By because it's a great one of. Then the rest of our spells, we got our board breakers. I'm playing 3 Dark Ruler No More and 3 Super Poly. As I said before, Super Poly was one of the flex spots. I was actually only doing 2, but I decided to utilize 3 because, of course, Super Poly is still a very strong card in the meta. Just about anything gets Super Poly'd. You know, a lot of times, especially against Tearlaments, they end on Rakalos and Abyss Dweller. You're able to Super Poly their board. You're also able to Super Poly, you know, the board of a Sprite player if they have Elf and Carrot on board, or Red or whatever one is Fire. You know, you're able to utilize being able to take advantage of Super Poly. So I definitely think Super Poly is really strong. Dark Ruler No More is also very strong as well. It allows us to be able to just turn out boards under D-Shifter. My local meta, a lot of people were main decking D-Shifter, so this was the more prominent card for me. Forbidden Droplets usually in the sideboard for any decks that are able to basically end on Dweller or any other Floodgate that I may need to deal with. But yes, this is the most optimal way to play the deck in my opinion in terms of what we're playing for this build. At least this you know, formula that we have here. But yeah, Super Poly is actually really insane as well. You know, if you summon Cherubini, you do send a monster, and they happen to drop the Kelbeck on your Cherubini when you send, you're also able to Super Poly your Sir and Cherubini, resolving Sir to give back Cherubini. So you do have somewhat of a little bit of an option to be able to avoid getting gimmicked a little bit. But yeah, these cards are very solid. I definitely think this is the best way to utilize the deck if you're not playing hand traps, since, you know, I don't play hand traps. But it's exactly 40, perfect amount of cards. So again, there is wiggle room. There are a couple cards that are flex spots. You can definitely change it up a little bit. If you want to include more cards that are graveyard based, you do have that option. But yeah, like I said, 40 cards. Let's go ahead and get into the extra deck, and we'll go ahead and start with the fusion monsters. We've got ourselves one Muddy Swamp, very strong, obviously. Grua, which is our main Super Poly target, because of course everyone can pretty much get hit with a Grua almost. We've got our Kit Kalos and our Rakalos. So Kit Kalos is the main enabler in this deck in terms of the tier engine. We're just looking to abuse Kit Kalos and cycling it out for a Havis, which gives us a free level 3, as well as 5 cards in the graveyard. Very free. And then of course Swamp is used because it's a level 4 and also allows us to recycle some cards that we may not want to mill. So since we are milling, and we are sending cards blindly to the graveyard, sometimes we can hit our BA engine. So if we are able to hit BAs as well as the Tearlaments monsters, we're able to make swamp and return the cards that we need into the deck that are gonna, allow us to combo. Now we've got our links. We've got our link 2s. So we've got 4 link 2s here. We've got our Dark and IP. These are for our setups. And obviously for playing the game, it's really crucial for us to be able to get access to Dark monsters, because obviously this and any other Dark monster just gives us Bardiche. So if this line somehow gets hit, we're able to proceed with a different line to getting our Bardiche. We have our IP Masquerena, which helps us get into our Griffin, which is a part of our end board. And then we also have Sprint, which obviously we're going to be abusing Sprint to send Merly. So once we have our Reborn off the Cherubini, off the Surf for Cherubini, then we're using that in any other monster to go ahead and make Sprint, and I'll show you the combo from there once we get there. Then of course we have our 2, 1 rank 3, 1 rank 4. Bardiche, obviously Bardiche, no introduction needed. And then of course we're playing Griffin. So Griffin's actually pretty neat because we are playing 3 Fogblade. There are some instances where I was, playing in games where I would mill multiple Fogblades and was only able to use 1. So I would actually use Griffin to set 1 on the board when I played him. So it gave me access to actually ending on 2 to 3 Fogblade depending. So yeah, it's actually really insane, obviously, because Fogblade is just a great card, and obviously having Griffin with Fogblade can do a lot, can do an awful lot. So yeah, that's it for the link monsters. That is a part of our main end board, so we do IP into that if necessary, depending on the line. We do have our 2 level 3 rank monsters. We have our Leviair, and then we have our Breaksword. These are obviously important to the build as well. I always like playing more than 1 Breaksword, but unfortunately the extra deck is very tight for this build, so we're only able to play 1. The Leviair, it gets recycled very easily because we are using Tearlaments and it is Aqua, so we are able to recycle it once we're able to do our full combo. But this is the only one that's usually pretty scary about having only 1, just because of the fact that we do utilize it so often, especially as a PK player. Then we have our 2 level 4s. So we decided to go with Nightmare and Dweller. Of course, Dweller is a staple because the format right now is very graveyard heavy. And then of course we have our Evil Swarm Nightmare. I decided to do this over Time Redoer, just because Evil Swarm Nightmare just has more applications. You're able to control your opponent's board and their ability to special summon. Time Thief Redoer, unfortunately for PK, only allows you to steal the top card of your opponent's deck. And a lot of times if it's not a trap or spell, you're not going to get great value out of it. This is a double interruption depending on the deck. And that might, sometimes this is just actually enough to just stop your opponent from being able to play the game. So he's actually come in quite often, and he's very good. I've been actually enjoying it quite a bit. And then our last card in the extra deck is good old Zeus. So that's it for the extra deck. No introduction needed regarding Zeus because, Zeus is Zeus. But yeah, that's it for the extra deck, 15 cards. Again, it is very tight. As you can see, there's really no wiggle room in here at all, because you do need the IP for Sprint to make Griffin in the event you do have the full combo, because you didn't hit a Merly on any of your mills. So it is detrimental for us to have access to all of these, and just, no way to really change the numbers. So let's go ahead and go over the build now. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the combo. So I just drew 5 random cards, or 4 random cards along with Tour Guide, because of course Tour Guide is going to be the main line of combo. But at least having access to something else in hand just kind of gives us an idea of how we would go about kind of doing the combo. Because I'm going to try to do the full thing. Obviously, anything that involves milling is just, it's going to be hard to really determine exactly, what we do in regards to RNG. But we're going to go ahead and serve summon Tour Guide, get our graph. We'll go ahead and link these 2 away to bring out our Cherubini. We'll use graph first to go ahead and grab the Sir. We'll go ahead and activate Cherubini. We'll get ourselves a Cloak Engrave. Then we'll go ahead and link these 2 off for our Bardiche. Activate Sir's effect to grab back Cherubini. And we're going to go ahead and place the Cherubini in this arrow. And then we're going to go ahead and, because the positioning is going to be very important. We're going to want Dweller here, Rikalos here, because Griffin's going to go here when we link for it. And this will be one of the first ones that we're actually going to link off with Leviathan, or Leviair. So let's go ahead and activate our PK, our Bardiche. We're going to go ahead and send the Torrent Scale, and we're going to go ahead and set the Trap Monster. So we're just going to get the Trap Monster out of the way. That way we can make sure that when we go to mill later, we're not milling anything that's going to stop us from being able to at least set up that line. So we're going to go ahead and banish Cloak. We'll add our banished cards here. And I'm going to go ahead and actually grab Stained Greaves. So we'll set up our Dweller right away. I mean, it's usually one of the most pivotal combos. We'll activate Torrent Scale that you want to have access to. So we'll go ahead and activate the Trap. Special Summon, make them a level 4. Overlay these two into Dweller. So we've got our Dweller down. Then we're going to go ahead and activate. We're going to pitch the Trap. And we're going to go ahead and send a Boots because we're going to want to get a Trap Search. Then we're going to go ahead and activate Special Summon, overlay those two for Levier. Levier effect, we're going to detach for cost. And we're going to summon our Cloak. Cloak effect, give it a boost. Then we're going to go ahead and use these two to make Sprint. Sprint effect, we're going to go ahead and send Merly. And now we've got our Aqua Engrave. That's going to allow us to go into Kit Kalos. So Merly effect, bottom deck this, return our Levier. And that's going to allow us to fusion summon for Kit Kalos. We're going to put the Kit Kalos here because it's not going to stay on the board. So we're going to go ahead and activate Kit Kalos. We're going to go ahead and search for Havis. So we're actually going to want this here because what's going to end up happening is we're going to summon Havis here. If we mill or send to graveyard a Tearlaments name, we're going to make Rakalos off of it. So we're going to go ahead and activate. We'll summon this here, and then we'll go ahead and send them to the grave, and then we would mill 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then of course we didn't hit anything, but I didn't shuffle, so it doesn't matter. And then we'll go ahead and overlay these two for Breaksword. And then Breaksword will pop. And then we'll get 2 names. We'll get this and we'll get this. So they're both level 4s. And then we'll go ahead and, so now this obviously depends on the matchup. So if you're playing against something that you know what it is, then you're going to want to be going into, you can go into Evil Swarm. So you have multiple interruptions. We have Dweller, we have Sprint's effect, we have Nightmare's effect, and then we have, we have Breaksword in the grave, and we're going to grab another Fog Blade off of the boots. So we banish this, grab a Fog Blade. And that's ideally our end board. And that's obviously only utilizing just 2 cards out of hand, essentially, just because of the discard. And then the other option is obviously not to make this. You would actually send them to graveyard for an IP Masquerena. So once you summon IP Masquerena, then of course, again, if you have anything else, you can literally make a, you milled a Tearlaments. Let's say you had Sheeran and you're able to discard, something from hand, whatever the case may be. You could also make Rakalos and it would end up going here. So then what you would do is you would, on draw, go ahead and activate Abyss Dweller. You have your interruption here. You have Sprint as well on the Abyss Dweller, so you could wait. If you don't want to wait and you want to go ahead and jump right away into Griffin, you can go ahead and activate his ability and go straight into Griffin. And that's why we summon the guys in the arrows that we do. Because in the event you wanted to wait on the Dweller, you could have. But then you still have access to Rakalos effect since it's being pointed at from Griffin. And then we have this spot open still for the Breaksword. So that's why we have options. But yeah, I mean, that's the combo. It's definitely nice because all of that leads off of just 2 level 3s. So even just Tour Guide's obviously the 1-card combo, as you can see. 1-card combo because you do have to discard. But yeah, I mean, there's the ability to do that with just any 2 level 3s just by being able to revive Cherubini off of Sir. That gives us the ability to be able to set that up in that way. So yeah, definitely very strong in my opinion. You have access to multiple floodgates. You have access to Fog Blade. And again, if you had another Fog Blade engrave, you could have pitched a card to set it. You could also, if you milled the Instant Fusion, you could have pitched a card to set the Instant Fusion for next turn. So yeah, it's really nice to be able to have access to that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to play Droplet over Dark Ruler, because of the fact that you can pick it up and set it. But otherwise, there's no real value in that because, of course, I mean, getting hit by Shifter is getting hit by Shifter. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the combo. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to jump in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think. Share with me your transformations so that way we can continue to, as I always say, make this deck as broken as possible. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the build. Like I said, I definitely think it's competitive. It's got a great end board. The only problem that I have with it is that it feels linear in terms of how Phantom Knights normally play into boards. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the greatest presence of playing into board aside from Zeus. Otherwise, you're kind of just trying to loop around some of your opponent's cards and just hoping that you can net enough advantage to play out, whatever cards you can from the graveyard to get you to Bardiche to pop a card. And again, unfortunately, since we're not playing Time Thief Redoer, we don't have the biggest guy to go into after we do a Breaksword pop. So, you know, and then there's no unicorn, there's no access code. I'm very, very, very determined to be playing those in regular PK builds because it's just great to be able to scale up. This deck just climbs very easily. But yep, that's the combo there for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely give me a like, a comment, subscribe, and continue to enjoy the content. I appreciate you guys.